Some founders wait until the team gets big enough to justify a management layer. But headcount is the wrong trigger. The real question is where your decision making is breaking down. So here's a direct answer. The signal is operational, not numerical. If non-critical decisions, things that should resolve in hours, are routinely taking longer than 48 hours, and you cannot trace that delay to a single fixable process, then your flat structure has probably outgrown itself. Well, that's the line. The 10 to 15 person range is a useful window to start watching for these signals, not a threshold that automatically triggers action. A team of 12 with clear decision ownership may not need a management layer yet. A team of 8 where every small call routes back to the founder maybe does. So before you look at your headcount, ask yourself which decisions are consistently stalling and why. That question will tell you far more than any organization chart. There are 3 patterns worth watching for. First, decision bottlenecks. Operational calls that should be routine are queuing up, waiting for founder sign-off or for someone to claim ownership. Second, founder regression. You find yourself pulled back into operational detail you should have moved on from, not because you want to be, but because there is no one else to own it. Third, untraceable delays. When you try to diagnose why something took 4 days instead of 4 hours, you can't point to a single broken process. That delay is structural, not procedural. Any one of these patterns is a yellow flag. All 3 together is a pretty clear signal. The key distinction is this: a process problem has a fix. A structural problem keeps producing new process problems because the underlying ownership is missing. And that's the difference you're looking for. There are 2 ways to get this wrong, and both are pretty common. Move too early and you create management overhead before the role has a clear purpose. You hire a head of operations, but the operational decisions are still too founder dependent to hand over cleanly. The manager ends up in a limbo role, adding cost and coordination friction without adding real capacity. And this is where management layer regret kind of comes from. Wait too long and the problem compounds quietly. Decision delays stop feeling like a structural issue and start feeling normal. The team slows down and adapts to slowness. And that adaptation becomes cultural, and cultural problems are significantly harder to fix than structural ones. This window between too early and too late is not very wide. The 48-hour decision tests gives you a practical way to know which side of it you're on before the cost of waiting becomes the bigger risk. Before you hire anyone into a management role, do one thing. Write down the specific decisions and bottlenecks that person will own. Not a job title, not a salary band, a list of the actual calls they will be responsible for making. If you can't write that list, you're probably not ready to build the layer yet. The absence of that list is almost always what causes management layer regret. The role gets created, but the scope never really gets defined. So the new manager either overreaches or underdelivers, and the founder ends up back in the middle anyway. So that decision rule is simple. When the 48-hour test flags a structural problem, and you can clearly define what a manager would own, build the layer. If you pass the test but cannot define the scope, then fix the scope first. If that was of value, subscribe to the channel for one real business question answered every video. For the same clarity in writing, the website and newsletter is 5minutebusiness.com.